Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Glad to be here. Talk about Nrcs. So I'm Rosalind Orr. I'm a resource conservationist with Nrcs, which is the Natural Resources Conservation Service.
Gotta get rid of this on our screen, sorry. Of course, it's not coming up on the screen.
You might just talk and tell the other two locations. We got a little technical.
So I think we have some technical difficulties we're trying to figure out. But again, I'm Rosalind with the Nrcs. I work in our state office in New Jersey, so I have statewide responsibilities. But I've worked in field offices in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, so I have about 10 years experience working with Nrcs programs. So I wanted to talk with you guys today both about the technical resources that we have with our agency and then also some of the financial assistance programs that we have available through the U.S. Farm Bill.
This is I hate Windows. Okay.
All right, so brief overview of what I'm going to talk about, who NRCS is, what we do, and the two arms of assistance that we can provide, ag producers and urban farmers. Gotta love technology, right, folks? Oh, maybe because the other presentation's
There's
up.
your picture. Oops, it was there for a second. Yeah.
Was it?
It's gone now, but it was there for a second. There.
Maybe because I just pulled it up. I didn't use how you were.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Yeah.
All right, let's see. That's our issue.
You want to go to WebEx and you want to upload Rosalind's PowerPoint.
Somehow we add that up on the screen again.
You see, right here.
Oh,
What's that?
you have to.
Constantly go to this big screen. I don't want big screen.
There you go.
Well, okay, it's the same button. Okay, which one?
All the way at the bottom.
All the way. Right there.
Yes.
Okay. I don't see a page up here. It's still working.
This is part of my technology karma. I must always mess up or break something when that's involved. So it's par for the course. How do I see it though?
All right. How does it keep going back to the screen?
Maybe you want to close the PowerPoint.
I don't know why it keeps keeps defaulting to this. That's the issue that I'm having with this. It keeps going to the big screen. Here's the issue. It shows up on this screen fine, and then you can't see it over here.
That's fine. I'll just try to
Yeah,
go
go
without
simple
looking at it.
glance over.
Yep. We'll see how much I can ad lib here. All right, thank you. Page up, page down to move it. All right.
Page up, page down.
Okay, so I will talk faster now. Okay, so NRCS is a sister agency to Farm Service Agency. We're part of USDA. And basically what we do is we work directly with agricultural producers to implement conservation practices on their land. We work with both landowners and land operators, so you don't need to be the landowner for us to work with you. And we work together to inventory resources on the farm that's framed in what we call SWAPA. It's an acronym that encompasses all the categories of resources that we can work with you on your operation. So SWAPA, soil, water, air, plant, and animals. Soil quality, soil erosion, water quality, water quantity, animals, whether it be livestock or wildlife concerns, plant, whether it be production, related condition or invasive species on forest land, pasture, or cropland, and then air quality issues related to implementing best management practices to mitigate those. Here's a map that was similar to what Gabby had shown that shows our service areas. So the state office in which I work in is in Somerset, shown on the map. And then we have 6 service centers that are luckily co-located with our FSA offices. So if you stop in and are interested in FSA, you can then come on over and talk to the NRCS side and see how we can assist you. I had put a handout which you guys should be able to access that has the contact information and addresses for all the 6 service centers and support centers that we have in NRCS New Jersey. Technical assistance. So I just want to talk a little bit about the resources that we have. We're a technical agency. We have a lot of experts in different disciplines that are related to agricultural production. And here's a brief list of some of the specialists, soil scientists, conservation planners that are located in our service centers. We have a grazing specialist, agricultural engineers. We have a statewide pollinator specialist if you're looking to improve pollinator habitat on your operation, and agronomist as well. I wanted to focus a little bit directly with urban environments in farming, and one of the big concerns with urban environments are perhaps the nature of the soils that are there, right? Because they're often disturbed, they probably had a history of industry, who knows what might be buried in a site that 100 years ago was in a certain type of industry. And we have soil scientists on staff that can offer on-site soil investigations. So they can come out to your property, whether it's community garden, whether it's a small urban farm, and do a site-specific investigation and provide you a report with information related to the soils that are mapped on your property. Some of the analysis with those soils investigations that we can offer is characterization of physical and chemical properties, water movement, the type of soil, the texture and organic matter, all those things can affect production and how you need to farm on that property. We can also offer looking at soil movement in terms of compaction. So often with urban soils, because they've been disturbed or there's been a lot of traffic over their history, compaction is a big issue with farming in those areas. And also we offer trace metal and heavy metal analysis, which is also a concern with food production in the urban environment. One of the really neat pieces of equipment we have with NRCS New Jersey is a X-ray fluorescence analyzer. And this is a handheld unit that can instantaneously give us trace metal concentrations of soil samples. And our soil scientists have done over 100 community gardens and urban farms in New Jersey, in the Newark area, in Union County, down in Camden, and provides the gardeners or the farmers with a site-specific report of areas, and what they do is they grid sample across that area. So it's not just a composite sample on an average. It looks at the entire spot, because often you might have a very high concentration in one area of your property and a low concentration in the other. This might be unsafe and the other area might be. So it gives you very specific information about what areas might be of concern for food production. And all these services can be requested through NRCS New Jersey and are free of charge. So I included a handout as well that referenced directly the XRF analysis that's available and contact information for those folks, and also in general urban assistance and conservation practices with contact information as handouts. So conservation programs, the U.S. Farm Bill every 5 years is approved by Congress, and within the Farm Bill, NRCS has allocated a certain amount of money to spend to assist in the implementation of conservation practices. And it's of note that in 2018 Farm Bill, that they specifically put out language that emphasized an increased assistance to urban farmers. And they're establishing an Office of Urban Agriculture within USDA, which is unlike any other farm bill. So that's very excited that on a national level, we have a larger interest in working with our urban ag folks. So incentive programs through the Farm Bill offer a portion of the cost to implement conservation practices. So we go out, we inventory those resources, soil, water, as they might be. We would identify with you your objectives. We would prescribe and agree upon conservation practices. So you want to build organic matter, we'll prescribe cover crop. You want to address soil erosion, we might prescribe a grass waterway or other structural practices. Once we've identified your the concerns on your property and how we can address those with the best management practices, we can offer incentives towards implementing those. One of probably the most popular best management practice that we've worked with folks on the urban environment is our seasonal high tunnel. So if you're not familiar with what a seasonal high tunnel or hoop house is, it's essentially a greenhouse frame that's constructed over active cropland. So you have a plot of tomatoes, you're going to construct that greenhouse over top, and it's going to provide heating and season extension to your cropland. So earlier summer vegetables, later winter vegetables, it increases your productivity, your density, and as a resource concern, it improves your plant condition, right? So plants as a resource concern. Pollinator habitat, we all know how important pollinators are to fruit and vegetable production. So we offer assistance implementing pollinator habitats, and I had mentioned that we have a statewide pollinator specialist that's available to do a site-specific recommendation and planting plan for you as well. And various other management practices in the urban environment. Runoff's another issue. We can look at stormwater management through our conservation practices as appropriate. So we have a number of programs through the U.S. Farm Bill that we facilitate, but our main, I would say the umbrella program that we offer is called the Environmental Quality Incentive Program, or EQIP. And it basically has almost all the toolboxes of conservation practices and areas of ag that we work with. So here's a list up on the screen of various areas of EQIP in which we have best management practices and payments to assist with conservation practice implementation. How EQIP works: you would apply, meet USDA eligibility, which our Farm Service Agency helps us out with. Your application would be competitive, so you're ranked with a pool of other similar applicants, and the highest ranking applications would be chosen for funding. If you're chosen for funding and you want to sign a contract with us, you would work hand in hand with a conservationist in a service center to implement the conservation practices that were identified in your plan, your conservation plan, and your contract. And it's important to note that with our programs, a lot of people call them grants. They're not grants. It's a contract with NRCS, and once you install the practice to our standards and specifications, we will reimburse you a certain amount per square foot that you install. So for example, high tunnels, I think we pay something like $4 a square foot, right? So you install a certain square footage to our standards, we come back and reimburse you based on the square footage that you put in. Just a couple important things to note. You're welcome to come in and stop in, request technical, or sign up for financial assistance at any time. There's no minimum farm size or minimum farm income. And again, the 2018 Farm Bill really wants us to expand our assistance to urban ag with the smaller operations and higher density operations. You don't need to be a landowner. You can be a land operator. It's voluntary. We're non-regulatory. We have voluntary conservation. We can make recommendations, and there's no obligation past our recommendations unless you want to work with us. And all of your plans and contracts and finances that are related to working with us are kept private. So my contact information is on the slide. At the top is NRCS New Jersey's website, which has a lot of contact information, information about programs. So I'd encourage everybody to check that out. And I guess maybe we have 2 minutes for questions.
Can you back up one slide?
I was just going to say, I'll talk close to you. Since we had technical difficulties, I'll give you a little bit of time to answer questions. I'll take it out of my time at the end since I'm the last speaker. I see questions coming here. So you can read the question. So read the question.
All right, so we ready? The first question, are EQIP funds considered taxable income? Yes, they are. You'll receive a, is it a 1099 at the end of the tax year with your EQIP payment. So we can't really give you tax advice. We always tell farmers and participants to talk with their accountant if they want to write that off. Can your agency assist in assessing property before purchase? Typically, we do not because we're limited staff and we have limited time. We'd rather you be the active owner or operator, so you have a commitment to that ground and you can make decisions, because the way we work is we want to plan, identify, and then work with you to implement. So it kind of isn't part of our process of kind of helping you evaluate land. Now, there is Web Soil Survey, which is a great service that you can go online and find out a multitude of information about soils that exist on that property and all the different interpretations and limitations with soils. So that's a free resource from NRCS, but at the field office level, we typically do not do that. Is there a certain acre limit for a loan? That would be maybe an Austin or a Gabby. Elaborate on the grazing specialist. So anyone that would have livestock that would be looking to improve their utilization of forage could request technical assistance from the grazing specialist. It's another technical assistance request service, just like our soil scientists would. Did that answer the question? Okay.
So there's some chat box questions. Yeah.
So we'll just have to hand out the mic.
Stand in front of the camera and speak into the mic, please. He's just trying to pull up the next speaker while you're answering.
Okay. Can you see me? I'm a little too tall. Am I good on the picture? Okay. Is there a certain acre limit for a loan? There's not a certain acre limit for a loan. I mean, we have operations that are greenhouses on top of rooftops in Patterson. We have 1,000-acre grain farms, you know, all across northern New Jersey. There's no limit on size of acreage. Do you have to put the whole property up as collateral, or can you put up a piece of subdivided land? Typically, when we are funding a purchase of a property, we would take a lien on that property. If the property appraisal value does not come up to the same amount of the value that you're purchasing the property, our agency would have to take additional collateral, whether that's equipment, livestock, or anything like that. What percentage of FSA loans that go into delinquency? I don't have a percentage of loans that go into delinquency, but we have delinquent loans. With farming, it's a high-risk operation or occupancy, given from year to year because a lot of operations are very tied to the weather. If there's one bad year, there's a high possibility that you'd default on the loan and be unable to repay that loan back. But we do have servicing options that you can choose. We can restructure the loan. That way we can take that delinquent amount and then restructure it over 15 years, so it makes the burden of repayment ability a little bit easier in the long run. Oh, that's the same question.
You have another question up here about personal guarantee, are the loans personal guaranteed?
You have to repeat the question.
Okay.
'Cause they can't hear what you're
There's a question that says, are the loans personal guaranteed? I'm guessing that's talking about if you have the responsibility of repaying that loan, then yes. If you apply as an entity, the members of that entity do have the personal responsibility. To pay back that loan. If you apply as an individual, it's the same concept. And last question, are there restrictions on these loans for farms that are under farmland preservation? There's no restrictions on it. We do fund properties being purchased that are in farmland preservation. It may impact the appraisal value of that property, but you can purchase using FSA funds to purchase a property that's in farmland preservation. Yes. What % ownership of the farm and LLC does the woman have to own to equal, to qualify for the 50% off premium? Is that you?
Yeah.
So in order to be considered a woman-owned operation, 50%. 50. It used to be 51. They actually recently changed it to 50. And I saw there were some other questions. For ELAP, does farm-raised fish include aquaculture shellfish? For under ELAP, farm-raised fish is very specific to basically bait fish. Otherwise, you can get NAP coverage actually for finfish and shellfish that are raised. If it's finfish, you're looking at something raised generally in a tank, and for shellfish, it's raised in beds, not something that you're harvesting out in the wild. I think there was another question for me. Are hydroponic crops eligible for organic certification? I believe the answer to that question currently is yes, although we are not the ones that provide organic certification. We reimburse for organic certification.
I'm pretty sure it's no, but I'm not
Oh, they
I'm hearing-
recently changed
sure.
it.
They did.
I know at the NOFA meeting there was a lot of discussion about it, and I believe it's
I
currently
want to say within the
eligible.
last year or two.
Well, it may depend on who your certifier is.
Okay.
As to whether or not you're
Repeat
certified
what
to
you said.
hydroponics. I think there's okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm on the NOFA board and I teach organic crop
There you go.
production, and I will try to say some things that are